everyone, and welcome to the tarot.by.thea podcast. My name is Thea Stone, and this is going to be the last podcast of 2024. And I thought it might be nice to ask the cards what kind of reflections or messages we might want to get from 2024, since we have the winter solstice coming. We're coming up on the end of the new year. This is the end of the year, rather. And this is a time that when we often reflect, and I thought that it might be nice to get Spirit's take on what we should be reflecting on, what we should take from this year, and if there's anything else that wants to come through at this time. Now, if I seem a little slow today, it's because I'm very tired. This last week with the full moon in Gemini has taken a lot out of me. I've barely slept. My body has been aching, and it's been a very demanding week for me. But Spirit demanded that I show up today, so I'm here, and I'm going to work through it. But before I get going on the actual reading, I just want to do a little sort of announcement, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you've been following me on social media or on my website, you'll probably notice that I've been sort of hinting at a new offering that's coming in the new year. And although I'm not going to announce that here, there have been some changes that have been going on in terms of some of the text and the language on my website and social media, bios and things like that, and that's shifting. And because you might have noticed that, I just want to address that a little bit so you can be a little aware of why that's happening. So I've been working on honing my niche, doing another revision of it. I find that every sort of 6 months or so, I start getting downloads on how to improve what I've done and sort of where I'm going for the next 6 months or so. And I've been having that for the last few months, actually, a lot of stuff coming through. And as part of that, I got guided to some resources, some people, some coaches, and it's really helped me to look at what my niche is, because as a tarot reader, it used to be that if you're a tarot reader, that was niche enough, but it's so prevalent now that I felt the need to actually get more specific on what I do. And I recently did an introduction video on my YouTube channel, and it's also on my website. That's actually the main reason why I did it, because I'm updating my website. There's a lot of changes going on there. And I recently did a content roundup on my newsletter, which also talked a little bit about doing my niche statement and the introduction of some other pieces of content. And of course, the very next day the newsletter went out, I got a revision on my niche statement. And so I've gone through again and done an update last night on all my bios and places where that is showing up. And so I wanted to talk about it a bit. And then if you notice a discrepancy between the intro video and what's actually showing up elsewhere, I thought I would mention it. So my current niche statement is that I'm a tarot reader and intuitive counselor who empowers spiritual practitioners, healers, and creatives to reclaim their gifts and realign with their soul mission by developing their intuition. So it's a slight tweak on what I've put in the introduction, where I said to people who have suppressed their gifts to regain confidence. That was the little bit that changed, but I wasn't quite happy with that language, and I wanted to focus more on what the positive results we wanted to get rather than the problem. And then I was reading some stuff, and then I got someone talking about soul purpose rather than life purpose, and then that led me to soul mission, and the energy of that seemed more powerful, more aligned with actually what I was talking about in the introduction video. So my plan is that every 3 to 6 months, since that's the cadence where these updates seem to happen, I'm going to update my introduction video to just be a snapshot of where we are, where I am at this process, what's available, what I'm doing, so that people can actually see over time how it's evolving. I may even create a playlist of all the different introduction videos, so you can, if you really want to, you can see how this this offering is evolving. So now my niche statement talks about reclaiming gifts and soul mission. So you might be wondering, are the kind of readings that I'm going to do in this podcast and on social media going to change? And the answer to that is not in the particular formats and platforms in the way I'm using them now. So no, but what I am going to do is I am going to create a new content series that's going to support what I'm going to do with this new offering that's coming next year. And that's going to actually focus much more on the personal development and the sort of soul mission, which you could translate to what it is you need to do in this lifetime that's in alignment to what your soul's trying to do overall. And so, yes, that's going to focus more on what your direction is, what your purpose is. But our soul missions can also be other areas of our lives. So they can be our relationships. They can be the children we bring through into this world. They can be the way we show up in the world. They can be healing wounds, such as our relationship to health and abundance. So I've not really felt the need. I'm not getting the call that the readings I'm doing here in this podcast need to shift. This particular podcast is just an avenue for Spirit to bring through any messages it has for the collective to inspire you and support you. So I've not felt that that's going to change, but there is going to be more content in a particular series that's going to support this new offering in particular. And it's also the same for the kind of readings that I'm going to do one-on-one, in the sense of your soul mission could be any of the things I just mentioned. So don't feel like you can't approach me if you wanted a relationship reading, for example, or a financial reading or something like that. Because if you feel drawn to me and you feel called to work with me, and that's what you need to focus on, I'm still open to do those kind of readings. It's just that there is a particular offering that's going to come between the sort of free content I'm doing with the podcast, the social media, and the readings. That's going to be like a sort of middle tier step where you can work with me, and it's not going to cost as much to do so, and it's going to have a specific, more narrowed down niche to it. So that's kind of what's coming. And once I do a little more development, I've got to do a little bit more evaluation and a little bit more setup of this new platform that I'm going to be using that's going to support this new offering. Then I'm going to announce it. I'm hoping to announce sometime in January. Maybe it'll be in the next podcast. And then sort of open up a sort of alpha. It might be a closed alpha, so it might just be invite only to begin with. I'm still figuring that out. I'm going to go through stages where it's like maybe invite only, and then it's open and it's free in a sort of beta where you sort of give feedback and we sort of can kind of develop it together. So it's actually something that's useful to you, you know. And then at some point I'll launch it, and then I'll probably have an introductory price whilst I'm sort of building it up. And then at some point I'll go to the full price, but there'll probably be a significant period of time at the discounted rate in the first year. So that's kind of what's coming. And yeah, so I feel like it's time to get on with the reading, but it's exciting stuff that's coming. It's not something I've done before, so there's quite a bit of a learning curve, as well as the actual business development is, you know, not necessarily something I've done to this level. So there's a lot that I'm sort of researching and learning, and because it's an evolving process, building a business, working out your niche and all of that, there's going to be constant revisions and refinements over time. And so whenever I do make changes or adjustments, you know, there are going to be certain places in my sort of ecosystem where I talk about that, but we'll get to that more towards the end. So now I think it's time to get on with the reading. So I'm going to be using the Lover's Path deck, and the reason why I'm doing that is because you may have noticed that when I'm using the Rider-Waite, there are certain cards that get blurred, and that's because there are certain imagery that, even though it's art and these cards are really old, the Rider-Waite is like over 100 years old, I believe. But they sometimes can get flagged by, the platforms on YouTube and social media, maybe Spotify. So I've been trying to find a tarot deck that doesn't have any imagery of basically unclothed people. That's the issue. And I've been really struggling. I thought, okay, I'm just going to blur the imagery because I don't want to do anything to the cards, because I don't want to affect the energy of the cards or affect the flow of the reading. And also, it's very important to me when I use a deck that I feel very energy aligned with it. The imagery is very important because the imagery is like a frequency in the cards. And so I won't use just any deck. I have to actually have an affinity with the artwork and with the energy of the deck. And if I don't, I won't use it. So this is one of the decks that I absolutely love. And it turns out that there's no imagery in this that's an issue. So I won't have to mark the episodes as explicit or anything like that, which is also another barrier for people actually finding the content. So there may be times where even if it's not a relationship reading, I'm still using the Lover's Path for that particular reason. If I find an alternative that works in a sort of general sense, then I will use it. But so far, I haven't found it. And I've done a lot of research, and this hadn't actually come up in any of the lists online that were suggested to me. I just happened to have a thought, I don't think I've sent any questionable imagery as far as, the platforms are concerned. And so I did a flip through, and actually it was fine. So I'm going to be using this probably a little more. So that's why. But for now, we can just get on with it. So what I want to ask the cards is, or Spirit really, now that we're at winter solstice and we're reflecting on 2024, what kind of messages or things should we be reflecting on as we've come to the end of this year? What do you want us to know, Spirit? And you can pick the cards, or you can just tell me when to stop shuffling, and I will do a spread. Okay. Okay, through. The 8 of Arrows, which is like the 8 of Swords. So this is about being stuck and not being able to see clearly. Okay, so maybe this is about where we've been working on areas of our life where we have been stuck and we've not been appreciating the situation for what it is. But I'm going to take a few more cards just to see what message is coming through. Okay. 5 of Staves. So this could be about, I'm getting inner turmoil. Conflict was normally the first thing that comes to mind, but I got inner turmoil. So it's, with this combination, it's almost like we've been stuck and ruminating, because this is like Swords, which is the mind, its thoughts, and then this is like Fire, which is like a spiritual energy, and also our sort of will and our action and stuff. So it's almost like we've been stuck in how to move forward, not knowing where to put our energy. But I'm going to pull some more cards here. Let's see. The more cards we have, the clearer the message will be. Oh, we got 3 that just came. Oh no, I think it's 4. Okay, very interesting. I think because there's only one turned over, I'm going to take that one. I'm feeling like 4 is too many. So we got the 6 of Coins. So this is about rebalance, and it's also about give and take. Maybe there has been struggles and inner conflict where we've been out of balance in ourselves, but also I'm feeling like our connections and relationships, or our partnerships and agreements. So it's almost like some things have been coming to a head this year that have been necessary to address this balance, or imbalance, and bring it back into alignment. So I'm just double checking. Should I put these back? Should I keep them? Okay, I think I need to keep them actually. King of Coins. Okay. So the first thing I'm getting from that is abundance, but I don't think it's necessarily financial. It's almost like our energy. I'm feeling like we've had to free up these programs, is what I'm getting. These things running in our minds, things running in our hearts that have been sapping our energy, and we've had to address this so that we can, like I say, find the balance. But it's almost like we're conserving our energy, and I got this in a previous reading, so that we can actually, we're putting ourselves in a very strong position to use our energy wisely next year. So it was almost like we had to clear out the clutter and prioritize and decide what's worth spending our time on or not. So going back to the program analogy, it's like when you have so many programs running on a computer, it starts to lag and it starts to slow down because each bit's taking a bit of memory. And so I'm getting that feeling of, it's like we have to minimalize, we have to actually conserve and reduce how many different places we're putting our energy, so that we can actually, where we do put it, it actually has an impact, and a powerful one with the king. And kings take action. So this is like something that we're taking action on, where we were really stuck and kind of like bound up and not actually able to move forward. And it was causing this sort of inner strife because we knew something wasn't right, but we were maybe too depleted to be able to figure out exactly what it was in order to address it. And this year was about figuring this stuff out. And actually doing something about it, because we can't carry on like this going into the new year. So let's see what's next. Oh, interesting. So we have the Lovers. So again, I feel like this could actually be primarily in our connections, actually. Maybe the way that we're showing up, who we're allowing to sort of enter our energetic field, and assessing what the impact is of them on us. It feels like we've had to be smarter in terms of who we actually associate with and who we give our time and attention to, because that is also a precious resource, and we can't be all things to everybody. So, and I feel now that I'm saying that, I feel the reason why relationships have been particularly key in this decluttering process is because we've been in the relationship axis all year. We started it last year in July. It's going to end, I believe, in January next year. And this whole year is us being in the Nodal relationship axis. This has all been about bringing up the things where it's not, things are not working, things are not aligned, things are taxing us. And we've had to do a complete reassessment of all our connections and where we put our attention and who's worth actually sort of being patient with and working through things with, and who's actually just going to constantly sap our energy no matter what we do. And because sometimes these can be very difficult decisions, because we might be able to empathize with a person's situation. We may even, have a lot of love and affection for them. But if a situation isn't right, we might have to cord cut, is what I'm hearing. We might have to actually move on, or redefine a connection. And this can also work, even though this is the Lovers deck. This could also work in sort of partnerships, like business partnerships, colleagues, all kinds of relationships, because we've been reassessing all the relationships this year. Even though romantic can sometimes be the ones that can get us most entangled, it's not necessarily just that. But yeah, it's interesting because I did get called to do the Lovers deck, and I did wonder if actually a relationship really might come through, and I hadn't even thought about the nodes, but it makes sense to me now that I say that it was going to come through. So, but let's see, what's the next card that's coming through? Oh, King of Cups. King of Cups. So emotional maturity. And I feel with the Lovers, I feel in reassessing our relationships, it's requiring us to gain a certain level of emotional maturity, that so that we can handle the situation, so that we can deal with the reorganizing of our connections, but also so that we can show up in the ones we do keep, with emotional availability, with compassion, with a deeper love. Our cup is going to be more filled if we're not pouring it into lots of different places at once. We're just being selective, and we can give more that way. And also, if we're having more fulfilling connections, our cup will get refilled naturally. Whereas if we've got connections that drain us, or like drill a hole in our cup, no amount is actually going to be able to sustain us, in our lives. So, but then so this is a clarifying the Eight of Swords, or the Eight of Arrows. So it feels like we've had to go from a journey of maybe denial and avoidance and putting our heads in the sand about certain things, to actually being adult enough to actually do the work necessary in our relationships to actually determine what is actually worth our time, attention, and energy, and what isn't. So I feel like we've gone on a massive epic journey to go from this to this in this year. I think we've learned a lot in terms of matters of the heart, because the heart's not logical, and we may actually logically understand why a person is a certain way or does things a certain way, where those behaviors are coming from. But if it's having an impact on us, it's having a huge negative effect, at some point we have to put ourselves first. So I think this is also about being willing to listen to our hearts and actually doing what's right for us, even if it means it's going to impact other people, because ultimately at the end of the day, we have to love ourselves first. And so this feels like a realignment of the hierarchy of what's important, because many of us actually put other people's before ourselves. And I feel that this is actually shifting that, so that we, rather than feeling stuck in a connection that's actually not working for us, and giving all our attention to them because they're the one that's the noisiest, loudest, most demanding. It's almost like we've had to go, no, actually, what is it that I feel? How do I actually feel about this? How do I feel after I've seen them? How after I've had a call with them, after I've done something for them? Is it actually working for me, or is this just something that's just a black hole that will take everything I have and more? And so I feel like we've had to come into this energy of the King of Cups for ourselves first, so that we then have something to offer other people that are worth investing in our lives. So that's that's very powerful. Okay, so let's take some more cards and actually see what we have here. Oop. Yeah, Five of Cups. So this has been challenging. This has even been disappointing. like maybe disappointed in ourselves and allowing things to carry on for such a long time and wasting our energy. And there's a need to almost grieve that loss, but also disappointment in the people that we're letting go, that they can't move forward at the pace that we're at. And we have to release them. We have to sort of lovingly let them go on their journey. But it can be difficult. It can be sad, to actually have to let things go. And when you pair this up with this, it's almost like we've gone from having the frustrations of being in situations that haven't been aligned from us, but we've been entangled in that situation still. We haven't been doing the work to sort of adjust. And so we've had this inner frustration, this inner anger even, and inner being conflicted about what to do, to moving to a point of grieving and releasing and letting go. So even though it's still difficult emotions, one is following us reaching a point, particularly there's still hearts, this is still emotional, us reaching a point where we're just like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that anymore. I'm going to go over here and take care of myself for a while, and then I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to carry on without you. So yeah, so it's actually been a very spiritually and emotionally demanding year, and I can certainly attest to that. I don't know how many of you have. You're welcome to let me know in the comments, but yeah, so it's been an emotional and spiritual roller coaster. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to clarify the Six of Pentacles or Six of Coins. Ooh. Just make sure. No, I wasn't sure something fell. Oh, okay, so we have Grace, which is like the star in the traditional tarot. Oh, and that's coming with the Six of Coins. So in actually doing the work to address, it's almost like we are being given the grace to do it, but it's very vulnerable, this work. But it's like this card, if you actually look at this card, it's like the angel there is just like embracing her, and she's like able to sort of relax into that. And then you've got a couple of peace stubs there, so it's like there is a peace that's coming from actually doing the work to rebalance. And it's also, I'm getting leveling you up in life, like you're taking on the world in a positive way and taking on your life and being serious about yourself and what matters, and you're being given the will and the drive to actually do it. And so, but it requires taking the first step. You have to start doing the work, but it's almost like the universe has your back. And the universe, I'm feeling like it's going to actually, so yeah, I'm feeling like in 2025 we're actually going to start seeing a lot more of the fruits of that. We probably have seen some of that already and can feel where that might go, but I think because this is a major arcana and that tends to play out over a year, I'm feeling like the next year we're really going to see much more obviously what this work has done for us. And we're cultivating something really important because we've just cleared the way and we've just maximized the amount of available energy that we have, that once we've gone through the grieving and we've fully processed what we've done, we've let it go, we are going to have a glow up. And I'm getting, it's really important, something coming through. It's really important to remember that when we make difficult decisions for our highest good, it has an impact on the highest good of the collective. And so you're going to shine brighter because of this work, because your energies are being drained. You're literally going to shine brighter, and that is going to have an impact on the world without you even having to try. So you are going to shine like a star. It's not just that the universe has got your back. You're going to help other people without even realizing it, just because you are living in alignment. Wow. Well, that was a beautiful little channel that came through there. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna clarify the King of Coins, or is there something else? No? Okay, all right. So let's see what else we need to know here about this reading. All right. Wow. So King of Staves or King of Wands, which is matched up with the King of Pentacles. So I'm being reminded that the King of Pentacles is a very slow and steady kind of energy. Bit by bit, planting seeds, cultivating, can get stuck in analysis paralysis, can overthink things, take their time. But we're moving into the King of Wands, which is it's fire energy, so it's quick. So it's so it's a spiritual mastery. So we're going from it's almost like we've gone from sorting out our physical relationships, which has had an impact on our spiritual relationships. This is what I'm going through. I'm feeling like we've maybe had a spirit guide reshuffle. I know I have. I wonder if it's happening on a more collective level, like almost like we had spirit guides that were here to help us through the difficult, toxic relationships. And now that we've been dealing with that, no matter how long or far along we are in that process, it's almost like we don't need certain guides anymore and other ones are coming in. And I'm hearing an influx, like we may be having a larger spirit guide community. The people have been doing this work this year. Like there's a lot more people, or spirits rather, watching over us. A lot more attention on us from spirit, I'm hearing. It's almost like they're eager to see what we're going to do with it in the new year. It's almost like this has been a gift. It doesn't feel like it sometimes. I know a lot of people have struggled this year, myself included. But this was a blessing in disguise. And it was to prepare us for next year. And next year is a 9 year. So 2 + 2 + 5 = 9. And that's about completion. But it doesn't mean that it's like, oh, we've got another year of purging and doing the tough work. It may have that still, and we may still be doing the grieving and all of that, but we're going to see fruits because it is a completion year. It's a year of mastery. And so we're going to see the results of the hard work. And I'm getting that it's going to be a constant thing over the year, and it's going to get more and more as the year goes along. I don't even think you're going to have to wait very long into the new year, many of us, to see the beginning of that. I feel like it's almost like just waiting for the new year energy to kick in. It's like it's brimming under the surface, just waiting to go. And as soon as it's like got the divine like green light, it's just going to go boom. Now it depends on what kind of work we've been doing, how much is still left to go. We've all got different kind of soul path journeys, soul agreements. There may be certain things where they're time coded and they have to happen at a certain time and they may not come in straight away. But I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if I start hearing, or you start hearing in your community, oh, do you know what? I had this really good streak of good fortune, or like just people being surprised that things starting to work out or feeling aligned. Or maybe just in themselves, just really feeling like, I've got this and my life is good, and just feeling the blessings, and being grateful and like in yourself being in a better place. And then that just naturally just magnetizes things to you effortlessly. And I think that's going to improve. So we've done huge amount of work, and in the spiritual mastery, it then feeds back into the physical. So it's like we do the work here, it starts to show up here. We do the work here, it improves our spiritual, maturity, awakening, and in this case, our spirit team, apparently, our relationship to the divine, maybe. So I feel like this is a feedback loop, and even though we're coming to this mastery year, and this is like we've had to be prepared for that. It's almost like, okay, you reached this level of mastery, now you're going to see the fruits of it, and now you're going to take it to a whole new level, because you are suddenly more resourced, you are suddenly more supported, you are suddenly more healthy or happier in yourself. And so think of all the things you've managed to achieve with, being this stuck or being this conflicted. Imagine what you're going to achieve when you don't have that to worry about. It's going to be incredible. And then, because we're not in a vacuum, we're going to naturally impact others along the way and going to shine. And so it's going to be, I'm getting this chain reaction. And I'm hearing that it is going to happen over a period of years, but this year is going to almost be the most noticeable because of the quick turnaround, and it's going to be the most appreciated, or it should be, because we've had to do such hard work, not just this year, but the last few years have always just been purge after purge after purge. It's been hard, and now I feel we're finally going to start seeing some sizable results. I definitely feel that when we get to this time next year, we're going to look back and have a very different reading. That doesn't mean there isn't work to do. It doesn't mean there aren't still hard decisions or stuff like that. But I feel it's going to be a very different year. And then, of course, after next year, we move from a 9-year into a 1 year again. So that's going to be interesting. A whole new chapter beginning. So yeah, so this has been the necessary work, and anything that still needs to be done is going to be completed next year. But it was almost like the majority of the bulk of the hardest stuff had to be done this year, because we needed to be lifted into next year rather than weighed down by it. So, yeah. Okay. So one more card, Spirit, to round up this reading, and then we can sort of sum it up. Okay. All right, so God. 3 of Coins, interesting. And this is, excuse me. This is going with the Lovers. So this is building soul contracts. This is about soul contracts. Right, that makes so much sense. It's all, okay, so I'm hearing that a lot of soul contracts have expired this year, or are in the process of being let go. So that's a lot of karmic connections. That's a lot of agreements with other souls where we showed up for one another to sort of teach one another stuff. But now that we've done the work, there's a lot of people that can now just sort of slip out of our lives because it's not necessary to sort of stay in contact. That's life, that happens. It doesn't mean there's any animosity. It's just the way of it. And I think that's also why spirit teams have been shifting as well. Like soul contracts have been coming to an end. Maybe there's been like some cord cutting, maybe stuff like that. So the spirit team has had to have a shake-up. But this is building a firm foundation, particularly spiritually, for our partnerships coming in the year ahead. And I'm particularly talking about new partnerships or a new chapter, a new energy with people you already know, perhaps the dynamic changing. So, but yeah, it's like we've built this foundation now. In our relationship stuff, we have the new, go to the new year, and we have a little bit time in January. I didn't look up the date. I think it's mid-January if I remember correctly, but whenever it is between now and when the nodes finally flip into Pisces and Virgo axis. Some people call it the health axis, but I feel it's more a spiritual axis. I'm not too up on all the different names of the different axes, but because I'm Virgo and I have Virgo Pisces nodes. I'm not Virgo, I'm Taurian, but I have a lot of Virgo in me to the point where I might as well be. But yeah, so it's like when they flip and we're finally out of this relationship axis, we will have completed this like monument, this foundation that is going to serve us going forward. It's not just next year, it's just like the rest of our lives. It's almost like we're not going to need as big a shake-up as we've needed, not just this year, but I think a few years before that were leading up to this. But this was like the culmination of a lot of relationship shifts that have been happening over the last few years. And this was like the tough work time. This is like the intensive retreat to do the work. Maybe we needed a little time to sort of become aware that, okay, this isn't right, that isn't right, and we start the process. But this last year is like, okay, now we put our heads down and we do it. Otherwise there's consequences, you know. But yeah, it's like this, I'm just getting this really peaceful, almost like sigh of relief, like in completing this particular nodal axis with the relationships, because it's like we've been carrying so much weight there and we don't even know it as a collective, not just individually. And we pick up on other people's energy, which is why I think, you know, this with the star card, it's like we're going to be shining more light, and it's like we're going to be able to feel it because we're not all carrying this weight and we're not surrounded by other people's burdens that are happening. So even though it's not like expecting everything to be perfect, we've shifted. We've done the necessary shift in this particular phase of our lives. But I'm getting the feeling that this was a doozy, you know, and we may not have to go through something quite this intense again, but it's all going to depend individually, of course. But I think collectively, I think that may be true. So it's, and I am getting this feeling of, for those who have done the work and have been creating space for a new partner, and I do mean romantic here, that you're going to be energetically supported coming into this next year and the year after. I feel like these next 2 years could be quite pivotal for a lot of romantic relationships, actually, because there's been a lot of space cleared for that. And I feel it's needed as well, almost like there is a mission involved. And there's a lot of people that, now that we've had a lot of soul contracts end, it's almost like it's activating other soul contracts that can now come in to that space. It's like they've been waiting for that space to be created. And this could turn up in other areas, like maybe you're going to find your ideal business partner, or maybe you're going to find someone in your group or organization to work with that just makes the dynamic better. But I do feel there is a particular emphasis on romantic relationships. When I see the lovers here, I am feeling that vibe. So we may see an uptick in, you know, new relationships in that sense. But there is definitely something solid here. And I'm also getting our relationship to ourself, which is primary. It's almost like we're our own rock, is what I'm getting now. And because we're our own rock and we're not seeking it from somewhere else, we can have much healthier relationship dynamics now. Because we've got the hierarchy right. We're putting ourselves first so that we have something to give to others. And because of that, it's going to impact like every connection we have, you know, because it allows us to go, does that feel aligned for me or not? Do I need to put a boundary on this situation or not? It's going to show up in so many places. So it's crucial foundational work that we've done this year. that is going to allow us to take care of ourselves and parent ourselves better moving forward. Much better, I'm getting. Unrecognizably better, I'm getting. Almost like you were the love you were always seeking all along, and you're finally going to actually realize that. It's actually going to be integrated and embodied this year coming up. So that's really, really exciting. Okay, so I'm just going to look at the reading as a whole and just see if there's any more messages that want to come through. I'm just going to use my crystal ball here. All right. So Spirit, is there any more messages from this reading that you want to come through at this time? Okay, so I'm being drawn to the Five of Cups. You may be, so what I'm getting is you may hear this reading and wondering how you're going to get there. You may be in this place already of sadness and having to have made difficult decisions, walking away from connections in order to put yourself first. And you're not in the right emotional or mental headspace to actually be able to envision what's coming. And it's okay. It's okay. All you need to do is surrender and trust. Surrender and trust that you did the right thing for yourself. And that's going to create space for something much more aligned for you. If nothing else, a healthier relationship with yourself, which automatically puts you in an ideal position to attract what is in alignment with that vibration that you've just uplifted to. But I don't know if any of you have also had a difficult full moon, Gemini full moon on Sunday. But if you had, this might be a difficult time maybe to even digest a message like this. Or maybe you're worried that it's just going to be hopium or something like that. And right now, it's just okay to focus on your healing, I'm getting. Just focus on that. Just focus on yourself and just let the universe surprise you. You know, you don't have to do anything more than, I was almost going to say guard yourself, but that seems closed off. No, have vigilant boundaries and consideration for yourself. It's like nurturing our inner child. It's like we really have to show up for our inner child when we're in that situation, because we may not be in a place to hold the vision. What we have to do is hold the energy of, I deserve to be treated right. I don't deserve to have this toxic dynamic in my life, this drama in my life. I deserve to know where I stand in certain situations, or I deserve to feel fulfillment in my connections rather than being drained. And standing in that energy is what's important. You don't have to see it yet. It's really okay. But just trust yourself that you came to that decision for a reason, and it's going to work out the way it's supposed to. You were in a situation where you were stuck in a loop, and you know, it was like you're trying to do the same things hoping for a different result, and all it did is create these periods of hope and despair, these loops of hope and despair, and you were stuck in that loop, and it didn't serve you, and it took so much energy and it took so much time that you could have been focused on yourself, your projects, the things in your life that you're called to do, your family, the people who really matter in your life, tending to your home. There were so many ways you could have spent that energy, but you got stuck because there was something that you were holding on to, or you had some kind of judgment of yourself if you were to let go of a situation that prevented you, that just kept you in this like mental prison. And because the situation wasn't right for you, it was building up this stress, this anger, this frustration, which then further taxed your system, particularly if you were quite self-restrained and you manage to hold that in. But when you hold in anger, it quite often leads to depression. And so it had to be addressed. And whether you addressed it today or whether you addressed it on January 1st, 2024, it doesn't matter. But obviously, if it was more recently, you still need to give yourself space to settle into the fact that you made that life decision for yourself, and you're putting yourself first, even if it means you lose somebody, even if it means you miss out on an opportunity, because you know that in your heart, that was the right decision for you. That was the most compassionate act that you could do towards yourself, instead of putting other people's needs before your own, which gets you into these situations in the first place. So we've had to put ourselves first this year. There's just been no choice. And sometimes that meant that, yeah, it's caused conflicts in other areas, but I think if somebody really cares for you and loves you, they will understand if you need to take time for yourself, or even if a situation doesn't work out. But if it's toxic, you could do everything they ask for, and they're still going to want more. They're still not going to understand why why you can't give them more, because you're so depleted. And there's no way to win that situation except for to walk away. And so, yeah. Now, there are some situations where you can't walk away, maybe if it's a family member or a child, or I don't know. I'm not saying that there is a one-size-fits-all remedy to that situation. Sometimes we have to make compromises, But giving in to their demands and not taking care of ourselves isn't the way to deal with it. We're sacrificing ourselves literally for them. And we're not to do that anymore. So, we've just gone through a huge level up. And we're about to take that to an even higher level. And we are going to shine like never before because of this work. And that is important. We're here to make the world a better place. And sometimes the way we do that is by just living our authentic lives and being a sort of indirect role model people and example for people. You never know the kind of people you've inspired in your life, and you had no idea because they just didn't come up and tell you. So whenever we can actually stand in our truth, stand in our power, do what's aligned for us, we are this constant source of inspiration for others without even realizing it. And I feel that this is going to be like this, like I said, this chain reaction going off all the way around the world in the collective. And the more people do it, the more it's going to sort of give permission for other people to do it. Like it's going to come in waves and stuff like that. And it's just going to make it easier overall. So very powerful year for relationship dynamics and our relationship to ourselves. Is there anything else that wants to come through? I just realized we have 3 kings in this relationship, in this reading. 3 kings in this relationship. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. But maybe that's what we've had to embody, We've had to sort of sit in the mastery of our energy, our spirit, and our emotions, and also tending to our physical self, So, yeah. Really powerful. I think that might be it now. Okay, I was drawn to this before, and I'm just pointing it out. Do you see how the angel has a heart with a crown on it? It's like there's this again, this mastery of taking care of our heart. And with all this energy around it, it's almost like our heart is being infused with source energy, with light, because we actually leveled up and did the work this year. So a lot of heart work's been going on, but it can feel difficult when we open our hearts. It can even feel painful because we've had so much armor on for so long, and we're used to that. We're not used to actually receiving in our hearts. We're so used to our hearts being taken from, and abused. So yeah, this has been a huge year of the heart. Yeah. Okay, I feel that that's it. So where are we now? How long have we been going? We're going an hour. Okay. So I feel called to get some oracle cards. So I'm going to just go and do that, and we'll see what they have to say. Okay, so I've just gone and got my oracle decks. I didn't know what kind of reading we were going to get, so I figured I would wait until we've done it to decide what decks to get. So I got the Rose Oracle because it was such a powerful reading for the heart. I felt that was appropriate. So I'm just going to start there and see what additional message Spirit wants to bring through in regards to this relationship nodal axis reading we have just uncovered. Okay, so I got told to split the decks, so wow. Okay, the second bloom, and it says, a second chance, it's never too late, new possibilities. Isn't that just what I said? New possibilities are being created now because of the work that we did. This is an opportunity for that second bloom in life. Not just in terms of our new relationship or a new relationship dynamics, but in us, in terms of what we're going to be able to accomplish now that we've freed ourselves from all this entangled toxic energy, or things that weren't serving us, or things that we were avoiding. We've now got that energy to put somewhere else, and now we're going to shine. So it's like, it's not just possibilities of love, it's possibilities in life opening up because of that work. And of course, with new connections, it brings new opportunities, it's natural. So this is a glow up collectively that we are facing now. And I believe it's the next 2 years we're going to see this happen. But next year is going to be quite pivotal. So that's when it's going to really show up. And then the work we do in these next couple of years, it's almost like it sets us up for life. Sets us up for life in the ways that we've been lacking and missing. Now, there's work involved in that. You have to show up. It's not just going to be gifted to you, but if you've been doing the work this year, you're well on your way, and it's going to get easier. So, because you're going to see the reward in it, what it actually brings you. This year, it's like you had to do it blind, like blind faith, because quite often in the traditional tarot, the lady has actually got a blindfold on, and you can see she's actually covering her hands there. It's like we had to do it blind. We have to do the work blind without seeing the results. We had to have faith in ourselves and what felt aligned for us, and following that and trusting that. We had to build that muscle. But next year, whatever work we do, and even some things that are just going to come because we've already done the work, it's going to feel effortless because we are going to start seeing things come to us much quickly after we do them, the necessary work. So, yeah, I feel there's this big shift that's about to take place, and it's going to be like a miracle. It's going to be amazing to see. I have this phrase, I was just talking to my friend about it yesterday, my friend Aggie, and I'd often say it. and it's called How Much Bliss Can You Take? How much bliss can you take? I think that is the theme for next year. That's the vibe I'm getting. So, yeah. So thank you, Rose Oracle, for the confirmation on that one. Now, while I was looking at decks, the Twin Flame deck did call to me, and I'm not pulling from this specifically for Twin Flame connections, although I'm sure twins have gone through it this year. But it's almost like when it comes to the romantic side of things, I just felt like we needed to pull a card or so on that. I am looking to get a couple more decks if things work out in the sales. And one of them is the Heart Healing deck, which I think would have been really perfect for a reading like this. But since we don't have that, I'm going to use the Twin Flame Ascension deck instead and just see what comes through. We might have to modify the particular meaning to work for this context, but I just got the feeling I had to pull something. So let's just see what comes through. So finally, Spirit, what final message do you have regarding this reading? Okay. Reunion, reconciling differences. So there may be cases, so what I'm getting, there may be cases where you had to maybe part ways or even put certain relationships on hold in order to handle this year. You had to go in different directions. You had to go on different healing journeys. Perhaps you would have been distractions for one another if you'd been in one another's lives more, is what I'm getting. And again, I'm just noticing that this is 10-10, so this is a completion. This is a completion point in like a relationship cycle, a relationship dynamic cycle. And it's like it's time to come back together. And it could be these are connections from past lives that have been sort of waiting and on deck, so to speak, for certain things to have tied up. Like I said, soul contracts ending and new ones coming into force. So it could be that, or it could be people from the past that you've had to kind of part ways with, or you haven't been as invested in each other's lives, suddenly having the opportunity now to come back in because there's that space, that's that energy. You're not being distracted by all the dramatic stuff that you've had to sort of face and deal with. And so now there's room and time to come back together. And also reconciling differences. So what I'm getting from that is maybe during this process of healing, there's been some clashing going on. There has been, like, particularly maybe in other people's needs, or perhaps even in other people's like love languages, the way they express themselves, things like that. But there's going to be an opportunity to sort of clear out misunderstandings, let bygones be bygones. So there is this, I'm being drawn to the fact that there's two squirrels on this image. Like squirrels sort of will like take nuts and things like that and sort of stow them away for when they need it. And so what I'm getting from that is almost like we've had to sort of stow away some relationships so that we can focus on what we had to do this year. And then when the time is right, in the case of winter for these, so maybe there's something significant about the winter coming through now that I say that. Maybe it's going to start very soon, actually. Or for some people, the winter at the end of next year. But yeah, it's almost like we're going to go in and like reconnect with people because it's like, okay, it's time to actually pull this out now and work on it, because this was something that was supposed to last. This was something that's supposed to endure beyond. It's just that we couldn't invest the time, we couldn't invest the energy because our energy had been so like scattered, and so we didn't have it to give. But now that we've done this work, it's like we've freed up what we needed to, and so we can actually go and dig in and see if it's possible to reconcile our differences now. So it was almost like we had to do the sort of karmic, the toxic, the ending cycle first, and other things had to go on hold until then. And then we're going to be moving into, in this new year, it feels, with this new energy, an opportunity to see if it's possible to mend things that we put on hold, because we've actually got the resources to give now. And we've actually got the time, because we know, okay, I'm no longer dealing with that situation, or I've contained that situation by creating this boundary or whatever the case may be. And so now it's like, I know what I have to give now, and I know that I can reconnect with you if you want to. So there is a feeling of opportunity. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out, because it could be in the process of learning to love ourselves. We could have said, I've had to close the door and move on, or there are those situations. Everyone's had to make their own choices, right? But now it's time to see where the dust settles, see where the cards fall, so to speak, and actually see where you stand with those situations where you wanted to put time, but you didn't have the ability to, because you're too focused on clearing out the gunk. And so now it's time to see, as the fog lifts, so to speak, where you actually stand with those relationships you do want to pick up on. So that's another theme we may be seeing in the coming year. I specifically is what I'm getting. It may pan out the year after, but I think a lot is going to happen in the next year. And so I'm getting like a lot is going to happen to the next year, because it's almost like there may be bridges to be mended, and that work has to happen now before we close this 9-year cycle, and we go into a new beginning of the 1 year, so in 2026. So it's almost like the reconciling differences is part of the work for next year. So there is going to be opportunity for reunion, reconciliation, and all of that in certain dynamics of our relationships. So an important year for that as well. And based on the work you've done this year, you can decide whether it feels aligned to continue, or if actually you're meant to continue on separate ways. But you're going to get the opportunity to either get closure, or the opportunity to begin or continue, depending on where you were before the sort of pause happened, or the separation, So, yeah. So I'm just going to ask if there's anything else. Otherwise, we can bring this to a close now. So any final words you want to say about this reading as a whole? So I'm just drawn to this card again. You see the face here in the rose. And again, it's reminding me of this image here in the Grace card, of the woman just leaning into the angelic support here. It's like we're so supported. We're so supported in this journey. And again, that's the spirit team shake-up. But I think also because the relationships we are going to have are going to be much more fulfilling. And they're not going to become second place to things that are eating up our time. But I think it's also this feeling of nurturing ourselves and being willing to receive. And I think that this is something that's going to serve us in good stead going forward. And there might be some work in that still to happen over this next year as we sort of wrap things up. But it's like we're going to feel more peace. We're going to feel more grounded and more nurtured by ourselves and others, because we're not sort of gaining it here and losing it somewhere else, So we can actually fill our cup again, rejuvenate, revive ourselves, and then move forward with a new level of energy. Yeah. Wow. Big stuff. Big stuff. I had no idea what to expect from this reading. I never really do. I had a feeling it was going to be an interesting one, and wow. Thank you, Spirit, for that. That's just amazing. It was what I asked for. I wasn't sure if we were going to have a situation where Spirit was going to decide a different kind of topic. But this was exactly what I was hoping for in terms of the power of it. I wasn't sure what the content was going to be, but I just had a feeling it was going to be powerful, just based on, what I've witnessed during the year. So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap things up now. I hope you have a wonderful day. But before you go, I want to invite you to the tarot.by.thea newsletter. And the reason why I want to do that is because the newsletter and the Facebook group are going to be offered early access to what's coming next year in terms of my offerings, in terms of getting it on the ground up and the ability to get free access whilst it's in sort of alpha and beta mode and things like that. I'm still working out the details, but I hugely recommend that you get on my newsletter if you're interested in what's coming. And if you want to see what it is, because I haven't really announced what it is yet, I understand. But if you do join up, you can get some other things. So whenever I do a podcast, I'm always learning. And I like to do a write-up whenever I'm doing a podcast or doing some kind of shift in my offerings and the content I put out. I like to do a behind-the-scenes kind of take on what I learned. Sometimes I even talk about the tech stuff that happens that was unexpected. I would put images of like readings and stuff like that in it as well that probably don't end up anywhere else, to be honest, in the newsletter. And there's also going to be a good place to just get notified of any other updates, because I don't know what else might change, one of the things that I just started this week was doing a content roundup, which is where I take all the content I've done in the last week or so, and I sort of highlight it in one newsletter, and then I just talk about what I've changed in my process or my thinking in terms of what I'm going to do with my content production line and my business. And so it's another way of getting behind the scenes stuff, plus getting a very quick overview of what's come out that specific week. So that's something that's just started on the newsletter, and I'm going to try and do that on a regular cadence. So because I'm also starting to do, I'm trying out different formats, but I'm starting to do weekly content on like Instagram and YouTube, and it will go on Facebook as well. So I felt having a weekly newsletter, or roughly that, to round up everything that I've put out would be really useful. So that's another thing that's going to happen. And of course, you're going to get notified of every podcast that comes out. And yeah, so the next one in January, I've talked to my sister, and hopefully we're going to be able to do a Psychic Sisters again. And although we still got to agree on the format, it's probably going to be something a bit similar to this, but a forecast into 2025, and more probably focusing on like life purpose, soul mission, that kind of thing. But we'll see how it goes. You never know with these readings. But that's the hope for the next episode. So until then, I hope you have a Merry Christmas if you're having one, or a good holiday, or just a wonderful day. Until next time, keep shining. Bye.